TitleMatchNetwork.com.
Well, the main thing I remember is that's when Vince was under real scrutiny for the steroid investigation.
Yeah.
So everybody had to be clean. They drug tested us because I was taking steroids prior to that. So I went from 290 to about 260.
Wow.
But what happened for me then was it worked better because at 260, and then like throughout my whole career, I made more money being smaller because I could wrestle Rey Mysterio or I could wrestle Big Show. Because when you're too big, some guys get locked into that thing that they can't sell for a guy who's smaller or something. But I'm not sure I understand what you mean about the mix of things. There was a transition going on.
Yeah.
But see, for me, I was so happy that I was getting a push and I was at the big time. I wasn't really worried about any transition. I knew my pocketbook was transitioning upward.
Now, you said you were talking to Pat Patterson while you were in WCW.
Right.
How did you finally make the move?
Well, okay, now he tells me, don't worry, in a year you'll be able to tell you want a job. Of course, a year goes by and then, I still have to call and I'm going, I said, screw it. I called Curt, I called Perfect. I said, man, if I'm destined to be a job guy in this business, then I would rather do it in the WWF because I said, get me Barry Horowitz's job.
Huh. Yeah.
Because Barry Horowitz had a baseball card. I mean, everybody who worked for Vince was a star. Virgil was a star. Guys who did jobs were stars. Everybody was a star. Some guys were higher up, but everybody was a star. So I said, if I don't have it to be a main eventer, I still want to wrestle because even the lowest paid wrestlers get paid, and I have no education. So I thought, this is what I still want to do this for a living. If I have to be a bottom guy, I'd rather do it for the best company.
Yeah. So
I told Curt, give me Barry Horowitz's job. So they give me a tryout. I'm in Lexington, Kentucky, the very first match of the night. But now I got this stud look, and the stud moves. And I walk out, and a lot of times when Vince will give you a trial match, they usually have you do a job, just to check your attitude. Because a lot of guys do boo-boo face. They don't want to do a job. So this time, though, they have me go over. So I go out and I get a job guy. I beat the hell out of him, hit him with my career ender, like set him up on the top, do the belly to back suplex. That's it. I hit him with my finish, And I know the match went great because I can hear it from the people. Plus, it's easy when you go on first, instead of 50th. Back then, it was, taped show. And I come through the curtain, and I've been around enough, and Curt has coached me to be, like I came through and I was real humble. Like I knew it was great, but I came through just went back in the locker room. Then they said, Vince wants to see you. Okay, and Curt goes with me, which was such an advantage because I was really nervous, but now I got my buddy with me.
Yeah.
And Curt and Vince were real tight. So I go in there and he goes, well, I had a very impressive match. He says, got to put a gimmick on you. And he goes, I understand your father's in the Army. I said, yes, sir. I said, Vince, you want me to be G.I. Joe? I'll be the best G.I. Joe I can be. I said, did you ever see Scarface? He went, no. And I said, say hello to the bad guy. And Curt was doing the shtick with me because we used to do it in the car in Minneapolis.
Wow.
So we're doing you need somebody like me. So you can point your thinking finger and whisper, look, there goes a bad guy. You're never going to see another bad guy like me. And we're doing this stuff, and he hasn't seen the movie. So he thinks I'm a genius. he thinks I'm making this stuff up,
Yeah.
And I'm giving him the whole shtick. It's all I want is what I got coming to me. The world, Chico, and everything in it. And these are lines right out of the movie. And he thinks, oh my God. And plus it's a shoot for me because I am hungry. I am Scarface because, I want to be rich like these guys that I see in the locker room.
Yeah.
And so he goes, well, okay, we need a name. And I know I'm meeting with Vince, so I thought of some names. I'm going there prepared. So I was thinking like maybe, and the business was different then. You had to have a kind of a marketable hook, so I was thinking maybe Shrug Shadow, or I was thinking of different names, but then I thought Razor. And I said, how about Razor? And he went, well, there's already Razor Ruddock, the boxer. I said, I kick his monkey fucking ass. I squash him like a cockroach. And Vince just started laughing. He said, we need a last name starts with an R. So I went, okay. I went to the bathroom. Tito Santana was in there. Tito was at the urinal. I was washing my hands. I said, Tito, I need a last name starts with R. He went, Ramon. I ran right back to Vince's office. I went, Razor Ramon. He said, that's it. And then he left TV and took me to South Beach, and we shot vignettes of Razor. And,
wow.
And it was all stuff right out of the movie. Again, Vince doesn't know. I'm going, no, man, I need a caddy, an older caddy, but with like leopard interior. And I need this, I need that. And I bought, in Florida, I bought a bunch of silk pants and gaudy shirts. They're expensive, but, you know, it was Razor.
Yeah.
It was, you know, it was Tony Montana. See these shoes, man? $300, man. I'm somebody important. You know? Like, to me, like Scarface's whole deal is if he had money, he's wearing it. You know?
Yeah.
And Vince dug it, and it worked.
Did you kind of have the feeling when you were shooting the vignettes and everything was going on that you knew this was going to work?
It sounds really egotistical, but yeah, I did. And see, I had Vince there. Vince left TV to go personally direct this. And that was like unheard of. Curt told me, Vince doesn't leave TV. He said, this is a big deal. Don't screw it up. So I go there, and I'll never forget Vince telling me, when I do the first couple months, he goes, no, wait. I want you to talk even slower. Because I would go, say hello to the bad guy. And he would go slower. Because it's obnoxious. You know, it gets people hot. Because I'd go, I'm coming to the WWF. And it was so slow. It's like people are going, yeah, okay. You know, spit it.
Yeah.
You know, like I'd walk out there and I'd go, everybody listen to me. And Vince coached it, and I did it the way he said. And I mean, I had a feeling it was going good. Because I'd been around, you know, 5-6 years by now.
Yeah.
And I knew I had a kind of a hot gimmick. And then when, you know, if Vince gets behind it and pushes it, you know, it's going to go. That's probably Zabisco.
How did you come up with what was then the Diamond Death Drop, then later the Razor's Edge?
I just was trying to think of just a cool move. You know, actually, I think I stole it from Danny Spivey. Is that what Danny said?
I forget. I don't think he did.
I think because Danny had been working in Japan, and what Danny did was, one time I saw him pick a guy up for like that old style backbreaker like this, and I was just trying to think, because I remember when I was sitting there thinking, how come I haven't made it? I think I got a good body. I think I can talk. I think I have a good enough look. Why aren't I successful when all the guys I started with are successful? So I started studying all the dudes who were on top and looking for the common denominator. Not so much like stealing their moves or anything like that, but what's the common denominator? Because I was a huge fan of guys like Jake and stuff, Jake the Snake. So I went, okay, you got to have a look. Not everybody has to be a muscle guy, but you got to have your look.
Yeah.
You got to be able to talk. You got to have a couple of signature moves. You got to have a cool finish. That's it. That's what all the top guys had. You only need 3 or 4 moves. Like Jake had just a couple of moves. So all I had was, you know, I had sack of shit, you know. I actually started using that Razor's Edge Diamond Death Drop in Puerto Rico. I did it to Carlos Colon. Because that's where I just practiced it. Because I went like this, and a lot of the guys in Puerto Rico were littler, and I was bigger then. So I just started practicing. And the first couple times I did it, man, I was landing on my elbows and stuff. You know, I didn't know what I was doing. I was dropping guys on their heads, but it was cool looking. I'll never forget the first time I did it, when in Atlanta, and Bobby E went, man, that's a cool finish. I wouldn't want to take it, but it looks cool. And like what I call sack of shit, that they call it fall away slam or whatever. I was in the ring, I was working with Carlos Colon, and I said, duck the clothesline cross body. So I caught him and, you know, gave him that. When I come back to the locker room, he goes, hey, amigo, what was that? He goes, you throw me like a sack of shit. and from that moment on, it became sack of shit. Like when I'm in the ring with dudes I know, I go, duck the clothesline sack of shit. You know? But I just kind of developed that stuff in Puerto Rico, because I really learned a lot in Puerto Rico about how to get over, it's a real violent society. And to get over, you got to be a badass. You can't be a cartoon. You got to be a serious heel. Because I didn't want to be a ha-ha heel. Like Chief Jay Starmore used to say, too much ha-ha. Like I didn't want to be a comedian, funny heel. I wanted to be like a serious badass. And so I learned a lot of that in Puerto Rico.
TitleMatchNetwork.com